a few years back, Palmetto State Armory came out with a Glock clone that was budget-minded, had a bunch of different configurations, and they started off with the PSA Dagger Compact, right? Now this one I've had since the Dagger Compact has really been a thing, and I've done some work to it with the trigger, a new slide, optic, things you normally would do with something like this that is Glock compatible, all right? I've never had any issues with it. That's probably why it's lived on my hip. And it's just a fun handgun at an affordable price point. I think a lot of people like that, right? So PSA was like, well, let's think about this. I think it was last year, SHOT Show 2024. The Saber line was kicking off for their rifles as well. And I'm sure they're gonna have more Saber stuff in the future for their lineup for the products. But PSA came out with the Dagger full-size S Saber. Now the best way to put this is essentially a compact slide on a full-size frame, like a 19X. And the claim to fame for the Saber line is really, I guess the thought process would be everything I did to my compact, which came bare bones at an affordable price point, right? They went now and took it a step further and said, let's slap everything we can in the Saber line in this, in different colors and configurations, things that someone would already do to enhance their own handgun. We'll put it on the Saber, so now you could buy it ready to go out of the box. And it shoots really well, pretty sweet. Now, there are some issues with it, like everything else in the world, right? There's a few things that we'll talk about here in a little bit on what I don't really love about it. But overall, my impressions of the last few months that I've had it for testing are pretty great. Now, on top of everything they've done to this Saber full-size S, they added this Magwell. Now, they do give you a couple of these Palmetto State Armory Saber extendos, right? Now, these are based on the PMag, and these are the PMag GL9s 17s, right? So these are the 17 PMags. So essentially, they're kind of like the Glock 17 mags, but nice and flush on the sides to fit into that Magwell. Now, this being a 19X kind of competitor in a way, is a standard Glock 17 mag. Some of the Glock 17 mags not only don't fit all the way in, I've seen that with the Mech-Gar. We actually talked about that in that review of the Mech-Gar magazines. They don't click in all the way with how that Magwell is designed. It gets caught on the Magwell itself. But also, if you put a 17 in here, it's going to be increasingly difficult to actually get it out. But let's see if a 17, just standard surplus 17 mag, fires and cycles on this thing. That worked. So that one does. It probably barely gets in on that mag release. Now, one thing, and again, we'll talk about more things that might be something I wouldn't really love about it. Most of it's pretty positive, but both this and my Dagger Compact, that mag release really needs to be worked in a little bit. I think it's a little stiff, and it's always been that way. I kind of worked on cleaning up my compact one a little bit, got an extension on there, and that really does help. Would have been nice to see this extension on here as well. Now, these again are the 17s, right? Well, PMag also has their 21 rounders, all right? But not only that, well, how is this suppressed? Let me show you. There's a little rubber ring and a protective cap for the threaded barrel. That ring has to pretty much come off. I think it's great for the cap. It kind of holds it on there nice and tight. But when it comes to a can, it seems like the can is going to be too hot. It kind of crushes it. And I think you're just better off removing that ring altogether. There's 21 rounders. Suppressed Saber. Sometimes handguns don't shoot very well suppressed. I mean, this one's pretty smooth. Watch the gas pressure, kind of feel it doesn't really kind of hit you in the face like some other handguns do. Yeah, very pleasant. The grip is nice because you have that like full size type 17 kind of grip there. Oh, a malfunction. Let's see. Didn't load in all the way. You know, this could be a round issue. I think it was just a round issue because this thing ran pretty good otherwise. It definitely has, I think, maybe you should swap out the springs for that recoil spring. You can kind of see when you're shooting it suppressed, it is just kind of lobbing them. Whereas if it's unsuppressed, it's a little bit more oomph to it, right? And of course, yes, the Saber as well as the PSA Dagger Compact both take fun sticks, because what good would a Glock clone be without being able to take proper fun sticks? Plus, look at that. Just lobbing the cases. I think it could work on the pressure with that spring a little bit. God, feels good suppressed though. Mix dirt, a little bit of steel. Some of you guys say, oh, it hit steel. I don't want to hear the dirt. Yeah, it's nice. Compact was missing out a little bit, right? Shooting suppressed, even with a red dot, you kind of forget you're gonna have to change your aim a little bit. In fact, these both have the higher suppressor height sights on there. These ones are actually a little, they're about the same. Oh yeah, all right, the exact same sights from the factory there, the metal ones. Suppressor height. Now suppressor height, yeah, it's good for suppressors, right? It's great to have on there. However, you gotta remember, that's just giving you visibility above the can. So you actually have to aim directly in the middle of those sights. So you have to like look down a little bit to really get on target. Also, the wind is going crazy right now. So I moved my dot down, but if you want to use those sights, just know, move it down a little bit. Little O-ring failed, probably from being twisted on there too much. If you remove this cap, these little rings are good in theory, but I find they don't work very well and eventually just fall apart. Wind is going absolutely crazy right now. I don't know if this paper target's gonna stay up. Look at this, it's like a dust storm. Look at that. It's like a dust storm out of nowhere. Like all of a sudden, like 20-mile-an-hour gusts. All right, well, we picked that back up. 7-yard target, 5 rounds, Max Tech 9mm, 124 grain, PSA Dagger Compact. Bottom left, because I've already been messing around in the A zone with some bill drills. So bottom left, again, 7 yards. Let's just see what we do. Nice and slow, 5 rounds. Accuracy test, let's see. Compact, here we go. All right, pretty good. Something to note, these are the exact same slides, right? So accuracy should be about the same. They both have upgraded barrels from PSA in them. Although this is considered a Saber barrel, so theoretically, you should see a little better accuracy. A little bigger grip there, that 19X style. Should see a little better accuracy out of the Saber. Let's take a look if the wind will calm down. 5 rounds, Max Tech, 124 grain, 9mm, bottom right. PSA Dagger, full size S Saber. There's also a Holosun ACSS 507CX2, by the way. So it has that ACSS reticle in there. All right, bottom right, 7 yards. Go a little slow here. Here we go. Ooh. Ooh, let's take a look at that. Dagger Compact, your standard Dagger gold barrel there. Saber, a little cleaner. Probably due to maybe better barrel, better trigger slightly. Let's bring this back to the table and show you a close-up of these two, talk about the features and also some of the really cool stuff you get with this Saber. And then we'll talk about some of the not so great things and my overall impressions of this handgun. Now, because the Saber line is a enhanced version of the standard Dagger, you do get a nice Savior bag. The Cam Savior has some of the coolest bags out there, and this one is par for the course. This is kind of how it comes. You do get your 2 mags in here with, again, those PMag 17s there, Saber base plate there. So you have like that +3 on there, bolted on, pretty easy to remove if you want to. And that's important because we talked about this with the Magwell. These work the best with that Magwell. So honestly, just stack a bunch of these. You can get additional base plates if you need. And looking up in here, of course, I have my red dot already on here. I have the X300 Ultra on there. But overall, it's pretty stock beyond those additions. Comes with that beveled Magwell. The grip doesn't have any adjustability, no removable back strap. Very nice trigger. Nice flat, big. Really nice. Compare that to your Dagger here, which has been enhanced. And I also went and did some work on this in the past because it is a Glock 19 style, being the compact Dagger, and you do have a little bit of pinky hang, at least from my hand, for a lot of the Glock 19s. This is a very similar trigger now that I've enhanced it. This is, of course, an aftermarket. Not as nice though. I think it's just like a cheapo one. So you do get a very nice trigger. Oh yeah, really nice trigger. Of course, accessory rail on here for your lights. Threaded barrel. Has that Saber on there. So it's another in-house barrel. Cuts in the slide. Same exact suppressor height steel sights that you get with this slide here from the Dagger. RMR cut. Let's see how this looks on there. Still a very narrow handgun. In fact, this Holosun 507C hangs over a little bit. I do like the cuts in the serration. They're not only serrated, but they also have like cross cuts in them. Very nice. Grip is nice too. Not a big fan of any of these really when it comes to their finger groove right there. I just think it kind of cuts into my finger a little bit. It doesn't rest too well, which is kind of why I ground that one off there to begin with. And like we talked about, it's important to have a magazine that's narrow enough to fit in here. So any kind of base plates, you kind of have to double check to make sure it actually inserts all the way with that Magwell. You'll hear that nice click, drop, very nice. What else you get in here? Not a whole lot. I think you got some stickers and things like that. This is pretty interesting. We'll talk about this as maybe a negative. What else is in here? Oh, yep, that's the flat cover for your optic there. And a little orange tag there. Nice case though, compared to the usual box or something you usually get. We got some more stickers in here and a lock. I think they usually give you, yeah, a little QR code for the product manual. So no more paper in there. So, you know, times are changing there. But nice case, Saber, great stuff like I mentioned before. Let's talk about some of the negatives, because there's a lot of positives going. There's just a couple of things here and there I think I would like to see changed maybe in the next gen here. So you can kind of see same exact slide, kind of Glock 19-esque really slide, right? About 4-inch slide, but I think it's about 4.5 with the threaded barrel on there. And then you do get that little bit of a longer grip, that large size grip, which is good, that full size, because that means you can get all of your fingers on there. Really nice, feels really good. Oh, and I don't know if I mentioned, but this is actually the M81 Woodland Camo, right? So laser stippled, Cerakoted, right? So this is Cerakoted on. This is not your standard looking dagger there, obviously with the M81 Woodland Camo on there. Also, you can kind of see how the sights co-witness there. It is a 1/3 co-witness. So that bottom third of the optic there. Bringing in the handy dandy scale. Of course, this has an optic on it as well as a pretty heavy light, but as is, maybe with the magazine. By the way, this is actually +5. I don't know if I mentioned that earlier, but +5, so about 1 pound, 14, I don't know, about 30 ounces. So all this loaded up to be right about 30 ounces, that's pretty good. A lot of good. Well, talk about a couple of the bad things. So not really something really to harp on too much for it. However, we talked about the Magwell. I think the Magwell could have been opened up a little bit more to accept more Glock 17 mags, because what if you don't have an extension on here? I mean, Glock 17 mags are plentiful, and there are a few out there with a little bit wider base plates that just aren't going to fit with this Magwell, and that might just not be a case for the Saber dagger. It might be something to kind of, anything with a Magwell on here that is enhanced like this one is, it might be kind of troublesome without an extension on there. Now, Magwells are designed to look cool anyways, I guess, with an extension on your magazine, but something to note, I still think they should get rid of this. I would almost knock it on there for that. I don't really love a finger groove, but that's personal preference. I didn't like Glock finger grooves either. Also, be interesting to have maybe a removable back strap of some type, because to some, this is quite a big hump in the back here, right? So if you look at the original dagger, that has one size fits all, right? Essentially, that's the only option you get usually is a finger groove here, but they have this hump that fills the back of your hand, and I'm not a big hump guy. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I just think it doesn't really feel as good in the hand to have that big hump kind of sticking right in here. But that being said, obviously you've seen it shoots really well, no issues to be had with that. Probably the biggest issue is the screws on top here are not the same screws as you get with pretty much any other optic I've ever seen. So luckily they do come with these, but you know what these are? These are smaller. These are actually 440s by 0.25, 440s. Now, typically you see in an arm or hollow sun kind of setup, you're gonna see a 640 screw. And it's kind of hard to tell by looking at them, but it's a little bit bigger width-wise, right? 640 versus 440. So that being said, had some issues with these. If you maybe lose these, you're gonna have some trouble finding the actual 440s to replace them. So something to make note, 440 by 0.25 is the screw length and the screw size you need to run the slide. Why they didn't do the exact same slide as this one for the exact same screws, I do not know. But something I noticed, and I'm glad they send you a couple with there, because I had a couple, but if you look around, and there's actually a screw kit I ended up buying at one point that has a bunch of different sizes. I'll link down below, and everything in the video from a parts list perspective is down below in that parts list. But there's actually a screw kit you get that has all the sizes for different optics. But it's good they included that because they are different sizes, a little bit smaller than your standard, which is interesting. One last thing, holster compatibility. So this is my T-Rex Arms OWB holster, Kydex, obviously custom fit to the Dagger, TLR7A Streamlight. But that being said, the Saber does not fit. It's a little bit thicker down here on the trigger guard, a little bit taller here, and it's just, you really would have to force it to make it fit into a holster for the Dagger Compact. Even though they're this almost the same exact slide, they look to be the same specs, and it's just a little bit different in how it's designed to fit that holster. And it could just be a one-off. I'm sure you can get something generic that might be able to squeeze it in there, but you can kind of see, obviously the light's not on there, but you just can't get the frame to go in there. Yeah, it just must be a little bit too wide, something a little bit different about it. So you would need a different holster for it. And we can't really knock it too much for that. It is an entirely different version of the Dagger, but something to note. So what are my final thoughts on the Saber, the full-size S, the PSA Dagger Enhanced, as it were? I think it's a great option if you're looking to get something a little more out of your handgun, but you don't want to pay a lot after you buy the handgun to kind of enhance it yourself and get a new trigger and upgrade the barrel and upgrade the sights and just kind of get a new Magwell and all that stuff. I think the grip is really nice. I think a lot of people are going towards that 19X style of grip, full-size grip, compact slide. Seems to be the way to go. It's very comfortable to shoot that way, and you can kind of see the accuracy is there even with that shorter barrel than a full-size handgun. And I think the control is there as well. I remember when the 19X came out, people were like, oh, it's the mullet gun, right? So, but now everyone seems to be having an option for that. And I think the practicality is there. I think the functionality is there. So I'm gonna give this 4.5 cheesy gordita crunches out of 5.
Yo quiero Taco Bell.
Because I do really like it. A couple of little quirks here, but nothing really to majorly knock it. And now that we're almost 500 rounds in, I think that's only fair. So thanks so much for watching, guys. If you have any questions about the Saber, hit them down in the comments below. I'll be happy to answer them. Again, the parts list and everything you've seen in this video will be down below as well. Train hard, hit the range, shoot on paper. Paper's still great to kind of see what you're hitting. The silhouettes are great as well. Steel is great for its own way to kind of heal that ring and get that instant gratification and instant feedback. But training's important because you never know what's coming next. Take care of the ones you love, those are the ones that matter, and we'll see you in the next review.